What's going on, guys? This is Bourbon and Ball, Week 17. We're talking must-start lineups, pitchers, streamers. You won't want to miss this. All right, guys. Happy Monday, right? It's Bourbon and Ball. We're talking Week 17. Like I said, I'm Doug. There's my lifelong friend over there, Mikey V from Clearwater, Florida. And we're talking Week 17. And we'll just hit the ground running. We'll talk about some must-start matchups that we like. Some not really surprises, right? Your aces are aces. Listen, Braves starting pitcher Chris Sale. I got him first on here Tuesday. He's at New York against the Mets. Sunday versus the Nationals at home. Really good. He's a top five starting pitcher, 11-6, 111 innings, pitch 134 strikeouts, a 2.19 ERA. He's giving you 18.5 a start. It's a no-brainer here, right? 3-0 in his last four, 25 strikeouts and 21 innings. He'd probably be 4-0 if not for that Cardinals game that got rained out, that 2-hour rain delay, because he was dealing in that. He had 3 innings, no earned, 5 strikeouts. I really think he's making that Cy Young push. Should be easy, especially with a Soto-less Mets lineup in there. Next up, I got Phillies pitcher Zach Wheeler. Monday at Miami against the Marlins. Sunday at Baltimore against the Orioles. 10-2, 100 innings, 117 strikeouts, a 2.16 ERA, 291 points, 18.2 a start, but again, still a top 5 starting pitcher. I think this is a great 2-start week for Wheeler. He was a tough luck loser against the Dodgers. He did go 7 innings, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts, but prior to that, 6-0 in his last 8. And however, he did only go 4 2/3 against the Pirates, giving up 4 earned. So he does once in a while have those tough outings and tough times going deep into games just because of the strikeouts. But again, should be a pretty easy week for him. And Mariners starting pitcher George Kirby. Monday, he's at Texas. Sunday, he's at home versus the Twins. 8-8. 116 innings, pitched 104 strikeouts, 25 walks, a 3.57 ERA, 220 points, 11.6 to start. He's a top 25 starting pitcher. Now, when I say Kirby, no, I am not talking about Kirby from Super Smash Brothers. I am talking about George Kirby. Now, this is an under-the-radar arm for me and a loaded Mariners staff. I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. This is a guy that can single-handedly help guide your team to fantasy glory come playoff time. Kirby's pitched over 190 innings a few times before, so the cap is non-existent for him down the stretch. And he currently has a streak of 6 quality starts in a row. Although he is 3-3 in those starts, that's more of a testament of how bad Seattle's offense has been. He could easily be 12-4 on the year if they did score some runs for him. I think he's going to be a big piece for the Mariners team if they want to make a run, and a huge piece for your fantasy team down the stretch. Quality starting pitching is a concern in fantasy come playoff time because of people being skipped, people being capped. And I just think Kirby is not going to be one of those guys. Say if you have him, you start him, and you ride him. Next up, Mets starting pitcher Nolan McLean, Thursday versus Miami. 0-1 his last start, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 earned, 2 walk, quality start, 7.88 points versus the Dodgers. Again, though, it's the Mets. That's what makes it a little tough. He's got 5 quality starts in a row, going 3-2. Should probably be 5-0. He's only given up 2 earned in 2 games, and then no earned in 3. So you could easily make the case he should be 5-0 in his last. But again, that Mets team is we were talking about before the show. They're most likely going to be sellers. And then last but not least, we had Hunter Green Thursday versus the Pirates. 0-1, 5 1/3, 3 strikeouts, 6 earned, 2 walks, -5 against the Pirates. On his last start. Up and down year for him. I think that's going to be expected after missing a lot of that time. I think this matchup against the Pirates kind of screams to me, get right. He's going up at a Pirates team that's just has come back down to earth, not scoring a lot of runs. And like we talked about, that Cardinals team that he gave 6 earned to, they're a scrappy team. And the Pirates, I think right now are just not. They're in a funk. And I do like the matchup. I think it's a bounce back for him.
It definitely is a bounce back for him. I think it was just a left start. It was only his 3rd start of the season. So I do agree. I think it's a bounce back. It's a great matchup against the Pirates. I think that's just a a slam dunk, right? The start before that, it was 7 innings, 12 strikeouts, just an absolute monster. So I'm not shying away from a guy that can be absolutely elite. So I'm all for that. I think that's a great pick right there. Chris Sale, like you said, he had no less than 5 strikeouts in any game this season, except for the game that you just mentioned right there against the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. He is Mr. Consistent in my book. This guy is just a must-start type person every single week. He just does it every year. Zach Wheeler, same exact thing. A must-start at this point every single week. No need to overthink it. Like you said, already a great start to season against the Dodgers. Yes, he got the tough loss, but he did go 7 innings. He did strike out 9 still. He will avenge that win. He's got great matchups against Baltimore and Miami. I mean, you just cannot put this guy on your bench ever. And you said it right, Doug. There are certain guys this year where you don't want to be left with hanging fruit, right? We're talking about guys that are going to get shut down. Their innings are going to get limited. We've already seen it with some couple guys already that are younger. George Kirby is not one of those guys. He is a great guy to target if he's not on your team. He is going to be there at the end of the season. I think the Mariners are going to be there at the end of the season. I do think the Mariners are going to move a pitcher for a bat to make themselves in competition. So I do think George Kirby is going to be at the forefront of that in their rotation moving forward. So again, 2 great matchups against the Rangers, at home against the Twins. That's a slam dunk. Man, great to see Nolan McLean getting positive feedback at this point, right, Doug? It's been a rough year for Nolan McLean, not just because of the offensive production that he's lacking, but just kind of just the inconsistencies we saw early on. Now we're really starting to see his true self. This is the guy that we thought we were going to see earlier in the year, but now he's settling in. The run support, like we said, is going to be an issue, but if he can get quality starts, he's going to give himself opportunities to win baseball games regardless. So, again, great starts right here, Doug. Great list.
Yeah, it's good to see Nolan actually come out his last couple starts and give you those quality starts, give you the strikeouts, everything that you expected. Because you did waste – I mean, I don't want to say waste, but you did draft him pretty high just based off of this offseason. We did the World Baseball Classic and all that stuff. So it's good to see him back. It's good to see him look good against some really good teams. You'd wish the Mets offense could give him some help. But I think that's just what it's going to be going forward. And that's what's going to make it difficult for him.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All right. So let's talk some tough matchups. Man, a lot of these guys are just like slowly coming back down. And you might just have to watch them and who they're going to pitch against going forward and just kind of stream them on a week-to-week basis. But I do have Miami starting pitcher Sandy Alcantara. Listen, Tuesday versus the Phillies at home, Sunday at New York against the Mets. Again, the Mets matchup could be a favorable one, but 10-6, 143 innings, 110 strikeouts, a 4.1 ERA, 38 walks, 12.5 a start. I mean, listen, he's gone at least 6 innings pitched in his last 4, but he's given up 10 runs, going 1-2, 0-2, and 3 in his last starts. So, I mean, you have to think that these innings, these walks, they're going to come back to haunt him later on in the year. Going up against these two teams could spell disaster because I think the Phillies, they got a lot to play for. Obviously, the Mets, I think there's something to finishing strong the season, even on a bad year, right? I mean, you still want to come together as a team and try to win it out. So there is something to that. And their lineup, even without Juan Soto, still isn't horrible on paper. So I don't know. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder if the walks are going to be there. We'll see what happens. But if you're in a weekly league, I don't know I would definitely not start him against the Phillies. At the Mets, I might be inclined to. Next up, Yankees starting pitcher Cam Schlittler. And I might get some slack on this because he did look really good his last start. But he's pitching Wednesday at the White Sox in Chicago, 10-6 on the year, 130 innings pitched, 157 strikeouts, a 2.07 ERA. He's giving you 14.8 a start. So he's right on that cusp of a top 5 starting pitcher, definitely top 10 in fantasy. I mean, what a start, right? I think it's fair to say that might be what you're going to get from him for the rest of the year. It's going to be up and down, especially with him eclipsing his career high in innings pitched in the next couple starts. His high was 149. He's at 130. Still, 3-4 in his last 10 starts, 5 quality starts. But, let's not forget 4 1/3, 4 earned versus the Guardians, 4 innings pitched, 6 earned versus the Tigers, 4 1/3, 3 earned versus the Dodgers. I think the White Sox team is really peaking right now. And I think that could spell disaster for Cam Schlittler. And who knows what's going to happen with the trade deadline looming, because I was very surprised to hear that the White Sox were going to be buyers. So I know they had missed out on Chapman from the Red Sox as a closer, but just to see them as a potential buyer is exciting. And who knows, maybe they go out and they get a big bat, and their rotation isn't that bad. It really isn't, and we'll talk about that later on when we break down lineups that are going against the White Sox. Next up, I got Mariners starting pitcher Bryce Miller Thursday at the Dodgers in LA. Listen, pretty decent year, right? 4-5, 68 innings pitched, 71 strikeouts, a 2.7 ERA. He's giving you 9.4 a start. I blame a little of that on the offense. I mean, Seattle's offense is just, God, what is going on, right? But I also think that Bryce Miller maybe finally falling back down to earth after his amazing month and a half where his ERA was only like a 1.8. Look at 1-5 in his last 6. But I will say he probably should have a few more wins because of the offense. I mean, you could make the case maybe he should be 3-3. But even with all that considered, he's still a solid SP3, SP4. But he's going to be a guy that you play matchups with. And against the Dodgers, I would steer clear and I would sit him for now. And then again, I'm probably going to get slack on this one. Nathan Eovaldi, because he looked really good his last start. He's Thursday. He's in Tampa against the Rays. Just talked about his last start. 1-0, got the win. 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned, 1 walk. But that was against Seattle. 25 points he gave you. You look at the 3 starts prior. He gave up a combined 10 earned in 15 innings. The strikeouts are there, which is nice, but the Rays always talk about just a scrappy team, and somehow they just know how to win. They know how to pull it out. I feel like Eovaldi is a guy who can sometimes get a little erratic, walk batters, and Tampa Bay is a team you don't want to do that with because they do have guys that love to get on base. So I would maybe steer a little clear on that one for Nate Dogg. And then last but not least, I mean, man, this is a guy we've been talking about for weeks. Framber Valdez, Tigers starting pitcher. He's playing Saturday against the A's. Just not a good year, right? 5-7, 108 innings pitched, only 88 strikeouts, a 4.5 ERA, 38 walks. He's only giving you 7.5 a start. I mean, what can you say about him, right? When he's off, he's really off. But listen, when he's going, he's still not bad. I mean, 7 innings, 1 earned, 9 strikeout versus the A's. But the difference between that A's team and this A's team, you had Wilson, you had Soderstrom, and I think Nick Kurtz was on the IL. They're all back. So little hesitation there. And then some other starts, right? He went 6 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts versus the Yankees. 6 innings, no earned, 6 strikeouts at Houston. So he does have his moments. He really does. I just think the A's, they're looking better now. The lineup's healthier than the last time he faced them. So I might be very hesitant to start a Framber Valdez Saturday playing away against the A's. Just there is some hesitation there for him.
Yeah, and the segment is called upcoming tough matchups. We're not saying don't start these guys. We're just saying that, don't expect the world from these guys that have just competitive matchups. We always talk about just having an opportunity to get a quality start, get strikeouts in there, and, give yourself a potential way to win a baseball game. But like you were just talking about Framber Valdez, we talked about him a lot Friday Night Live, and you kind of know where I stand with him at this point. But again, you got to sometimes roll with the hot hand. The Detroit Tigers right now are a very hot team. They came out of nowhere. If you talked about them 2 weeks ago, just like with the Red Sox, they were nothing. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about Tigers baseball again. Now we're talking about maybe Skubal not getting traded. What I'm trying to say is a Framber Valdez start with a red-hot team might be appealing, but I'm not buying into Framber Valdez at this point, Doug. I think I'm out on Framber Valdez. It's just too inconsistent in my book until further notice. So, again, I'm probably passing up this matchup after saying all the lovely things I just said about Detroit. But that doesn't mean Framber Valdez gets a pass. You started off with Sandy Alcantara there. I'm probably still starting him. It's a tough 2 start for sure if you're in a weekly league. If you're in a daily league, if you passed up on the Phillies, I'm cool with that. I'm just kind of mimicking what you said there, Doug. I agree with it. I think the Mets are a better matchup, especially with the Soto-less lineup. And who knows where they're going to be by the time Sunday comes around too, right? We're talking about after the trade deadline. We don't know if Bichette's going to be there. We don't know if Lindor's going to be there. There could be some wild news this week. So, again, I think right now Alcantara is a good start. It's just, again, be precautious against Philly. Cam Schlitter, I'm surprised you put him on here, Doug. Again, he's pitching really well. Top 5 pitcher, like you said. Just absolutely having a dazzling year. And, hey, we just got to call a spade a spade. White Sox are a good baseball team, and you just have to accept it. And, again, if you expect him to go out there just mowing down everyone like he does every week, I don't know if he's going to do that so much. I still think he's going to go out there. I still think he's going to give you a quality start on Wednesday. It's just, again, it's precaution. You just don't know right now with that White Sox team. Like you said, they're going to be buyers. What are you thinking over there, Doug?
I mean, I was thinking, if you look at some of Schlittler's other starts, 4 innings, 5 innings, 4 innings, he does have those clunkers in there, especially more as of late. He's not as dominant as he was to start the year. I just feel like it's a toss-up. I think he can go out there and he could dominate this lineup. I'm not saying he can't. I mean, it's a free swinging lineup. We all know that. Murakami strikes out a ton. I mean, if Benintendi's in there, he can strike out. I get that. The other thing you got to know is, well, if he's off, he's off. I mean, we've seen him guy gave up 6 runs to Detroit when Detroit was struggling, going 4 innings. So I'm just hesitant. I feel like it's one of those trap games where you're like, oh, this should be an easy win on paper. He's going to go and he's going to dominate 10 strikeouts. I don't know. I just don't know if it's that easy.
So let me throw a scenario at you. This could be very possible too. We know that he's going to be on an innings limit anyway. So if you have an opportunity to pull him early, let's say he gives up 3 early and he's got 2 men on with no outs and it's the 3rd inning. They might just say, you know what? This is the time we're just going to pull him. It's not looking so good so far. He's already given up 3. He's already got 2 on. There's no outs. We want him obviously down the stretch. Maybe this is the game where we just say, hey, you know what? 40, 50 pitches, you're done. We're going to move on this week. And then next week, we're going to go back to normal. Very possible with a guy like that. Again, we're talking about guys that are limited, down the stretch. Schlitter could be limited down the stretch. We've already seen it with a couple other guys. Moving on to Bryce Miller, I think he's a better pitcher in real life than he is in fantasy. I really truly believe that. Just because I look at 71 strikeouts with 11 walks, I think, man, that is really good. I think that's really, really good. And 68 innings pitched on top of that too. So we're talking over a strikeout per inning. To only have 112 points to this point, and again, I know he missed a month and a half, but still, it's just kind of hocus pocus a little bit. If Bryce Miller was pitching for, a winning competitive team and he brought the same exact stats over like he did here, I don't know. I think you'd see a little bit more of an uptick, obviously, with the wins and stuff as well, getting more run support somewhere else. But, Bryce Miller really just hasn't done it for me this year so far. Again, I think he's just a better pitcher in real life than he is in fantasy. So, again, if you want to pass up on Bryce Miller this week, I'm definitely cool with that. And then Nathan Eovaldi, look, the Rays at home are 37-15, Doug. They're 22 games over 500 at home. They actually have a losing record on the road. They're just a juggernaut. I think they're one of the best home baseball teams in the league. Eovaldi, yes, he's very, very good. He's a very good pitcher still. I think he could be on the block as well, so he could be, pitching to pitch out of Texas on Thursday potentially. But again, I love the Rays. Look at the hat I'm wearing, or if you're listening, I got a TB hat on. It's just the way it is so far this year with the Rays. They're just full cylinder. So again, a home game, it's just always questionable against the Rays at this point. So again, if you want to pass up on Eovaldi, I'm not against it either this week. So yeah, it's a great list. And again, I think there are some that I say, hey, you can start him. It's probably going to be okay. But there's a couple guys like Eovaldi and Bryce Miller here I'm probably steering away from this week.
All right. We should actually maybe keep track of some of these and see how they turn out.
I know. No, we should start that. We'll start that next year. We'll have a whole new smorgasbord of things, I think, going on next year.
All right. So let's talk lineups, right? There they are. must-start lineups for me. Some surprises on here, right? Let's start out with Kansas City. Look at they're winning right now too. They're up 2-0 against the Tigers. So 3 games at Minnesota, 3 games at Colorado. I know they're pretty much out of the playoffs, but 6-4 in the last 10 games. They swept the San Francisco Giants. They won the series against the Padres. I think that train continues to roll, especially since the Twins have to. Well, actually, the Twins don't even have rotation in line to the start of next week. So they're all waiting on this Joe Ryan injury. He's day-to-day. If he goes on the IL, they're going to have to change that entire rotation around. So right now, no one's really scheduled. I mean, they could be going into just a game of a bullpen game. Who knows? Which would work out to their favor. And some of the Rockies pitchers, I mean, you're talking about Kyle Freeland, Schlittler, Sagano. Like these guys, they're one thing Colorado doesn't have is pitching. And I mean, in Colorado, I just think it's a really good matchup to start streaming a couple extra of those players. Milwaukee Brewers, another one. 3 games at the Giants, 3 games at the Angels, 6-4 in their last 10. They swept the Marlins, won the series against the Mets. They'll see Tyler Mahale, Landon Roop, Logan Webb, Ryan Johnson, Jose Soriano, and Urena from the Angels. I mean, what more can you say, right? Down year for Logan Webb. He would probably be the only one I would maybe stand clear of if I was going to start or stream a couple players from the Brewers. But he just hasn't looked good. I'm comfortable streaming guys from the Brewers on there. And then the Padres, right? They got 2 games versus the Rockies. They got 4 games versus the Giants. 5-5 in their last 10. They're facing off against like a Michael Lorenzen, Gabriel Hughes from the Rockies, Robbie Ray. That's probably the only better matchup of they'll face this week. But Carson Weinhurst, Tyler Mahale, Landon Root, these are all guys that are just, high 3s, 4s ERA, winnable for that lineup to score some runs. Houston Astros, 3 games at the Angels in Los Angeles, 3 games at home versus the Rangers, 6-4 in their last 10, winners of 5 straight. I have to say a lot of success is probably because they do have Josh Hader back, and it's no coincidence now that they have an actual closer in that role. They've kind of went up the standings, and they're fighting for that first place spot, which is good to see for them. They'll see Urena. They'll see Reed Detmers. They'll see Grayson Rodriguez from the Angels. A struggling Jacob deGrom, Kumar Rocker, Cal Contrell from Texas. I mean, they're none of those names. DeGrom scares me a little bit, but he's been struggling so bad. It's like just play him. Just play the offense because DeGrom just does not look like DeGrom. And it's not that he's not throwing hard. Maybe he's overcompensating. Maybe he's overthrowing because there's a little more walks than usual, but the strikeouts are still there. But men are getting on, and they're hitting them when they're on. And that's some hesitation there if I had DeGrom. But for the lineup, I would still start a lot of those Houston Astros. They're playing hot too, and they might be buyers. Detroit Tigers, we just talked about them. 3 games at home versus the Orioles, 3 games at Sacramento versus the A's. 6-4 in their last 10. They won 3 straight series. They beat the Angels, the Cubs, and the Royals. They'll see Dean Kramer, Kyle Bradish, Trevor Rogers, Jeffrey Springs, Jack Perkins, Gates jump from the A's. Again, pretty good matchups, pretty winnable matchups. Maybe Kyle Bradish might give them the toughest time out of the week, but other than that, it should be pretty simple for that team.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, Gage Jump has really taken a step back, I think, at this point. We've seen him really get knocked around since he's had that hot start that he had before when he got called up. Jeffrey Springs, look, we don't even know if we're going to see Jeffrey Springs potentially. He's another guy that could be potentially moved on the block too. But again, he's just kind of holding on by a thread as well. Trevor Rogers been pitching pretty well. I think he's been pretty steady the last, I'd say, like 5 or 6 starts. So maybe we're starting to see some of the reminiscence of 2025 come back for him. But again, it's about the Tigers. They're hitting the ball really well right now. They're winning baseball games again, like we said earlier. So again, if you got these guys that are just producing, you might as well just keep them in your lineups. So again, same thing with the Houston Astros. You got to keep those guys in your lineup. It's just one of those things where you look at these matchups and they're just so bad, Doug. Like, you touched on, Jacob deGrom, and we love Jacob deGrom in this program. But usually when I say that, that means I'm going to say something bad about him, right? And that's really because he's been struggling so hard this year, and we've drafted him, fourth, fifth, sixth round in these drafts. You expected way more production out of him, but now it's one of those things when you see him on the lineup, when you're going to go against him, where you don't even have to worry about him anymore. So again, Jacob deGrom is just not one of those names. It's just not going to, remove me from taking a person out of the lineup at this point anymore. So deGrom, Rocker, Cal Quantrill, that's green light for me for the Astros. That's gravy. But let's talk about the Padres for a second. I think we talked about the Padres a couple weeks ago. I liked the Padres a couple weeks ago, and it was like we had like a 50-50 split. I think we kind of agreed to disagree on San Diego a little bit because I was really hyping them up. But now I think we're finally starting to see the real Padres team when it comes to hitting to their potential. Jackson Merrill flipped the switch, right? Since the All-Star break, he's batting .329, couple home runs, and he's got 3 multi-hit games through 9 games, while Tatis is streaking into the second half by just as good numbers. He's hitting .315. He's got 3 home runs. He's almost got 10 RBIs. He's got 9 RBIs. Even Machado is starting to see an uptick in his production and his power. And you have to tip your cap to Ty France to this point, too. He's been red hot since the All-Star break. So only being 3 games out of the All-Star, of the playoff run from the wild card, this is the right time for this team to be heating up. This is incredible for them. So I'm comfortable starting Jackson Merrill. Doug, I got Jackson Merrill. I've been starting him, and it's been great. I've been getting the benefits from his production so far. So again, just continue starting those guys. Great lineup, Matt. Great matchups. I know you're laughing over there. Against the Rockies, against the Giants. And they're both at home. So it's looking good, and they're going to get some pitching back very soon as well. So I think it's going to look really good for the Padres moving forward. I'm never going to disagree with you about the Milwaukee Brewers. Those guys just hit. They win. Even the guys like Cooper Pratt seems like he's starting to get comfortable in that lineup. I think had his second career home run this week. So again, it's just start these guys against these kind of, I don't want to call them dumpster fire lineups, but kind of dumpster fire lineups. Giants, Angels, teams that are just not at it anymore. They're just not in it anymore. And I was surprised you put the Royals on here, Doug. Especially right up top. It was a fun read. I totally understand where you're coming from with this though. And I see the potential with some of these bats, especially like a Sal Perez, who we got to tip the cap to, right? Didn't he just hit the Royals record for franchise home runs? So, guys like that, maybe just like, waiver wire pickups. We're about to get into that a little bit. And I think some of these guys on these teams are going to pop up on that as well. But yeah, it's just you got to play the matchups. Twins, Rockies, especially at Rockies. I think that could be a really big week for some of those power hitters, like a Jack Leone. Maybe potentially it could be a monster weekend for him.
All right, I agree. The Kansas City Royals 6-4 in their last 10. I think they're playing for respect at this point, right? So
of course. Well, look at the White Sox last year. The White Sox last year, we thought they were going to be the worst team in baseball. And they weren't. And it wasn't by like a lot either. They were not that bad. And I remember toward the end of the year, they were somewhat competing. They were like competitive. They were trying to play spoiler. So you can carry that kind of momentum into the next year. So hopefully the Royals do it.
Right. All right. Let's talk tough matchups here. Again, some surprises. I know. I get it. But I'll start out with, let's just start from the top here. We got the Yankees. They're playing 7 games, 4 games at Chicago against the White Sox, then 3 games at Chicago against the Cubs. So they get the whole tour of the city of Chicago. 7-3 in their last 10, but I think that's more of their pitching than offense. They did win their last 3 games, scoring just a combined 6 runs. So basically just 2 runs a game. But listen who they're going to see here. Like, if this is an opportunity for the White Sox and the Cubs to make statements, like, this is it. Yeah, you'll see Noah Schultz. You'll also see Anthony Kay, Davis Martin, and Sean Burke. Those are the 3 premier pitchers for Chicago. Sean Burke looks amazing. Davis Martin looks good. Anthony Kay. That's a tough matchup for that lineup, especially we're going to talk about Cody Bellinger's on the IL now. What are they going to do? And then you got James Taillon, David Peterson, who's been pitching pretty good of late, and David Peterson, who's been pitching pretty good of late, and Colin Ray from the Cubs. So I think this is a really tough week for that New York Yankees lineup. This is the type of week where it's a make or break. I personally think if they end up, say they got 7 games and they lose, we'll say 5, they only win 2. They go 2-5 for the 7. That's tough. That is tough. That drops them out of that might drop them out of the wild card if other teams are winning, right? And then you got the Seattle Mariners on here. They get a game at Texas. They got 3 games at the Dodgers, and then they got 3 games versus the Twins at home. 4-6 in their last 10. Again, not because of their pitching, but their offense is just terrible. They'll see Cooper Rocker, which from Texas, that is probably the only winnable matchup for this week, I think, for that team. You know, the Dodgers you'll see Justin Roblowski. He's looked really good. Roki looked amazing his last start. So who knows which one you're going to get there. Eric Lauer from the Dodgers. And then as of now, again, that rotation for the Twins isn't set yet. The only one that they do have pegged in for that at one of those games, at least, is Zebby Matthews, who's been up and down. But Twins are at home. They're a different team when they're at home. It'll be interesting to see because that Seattle Mariners offense really is just horrible. I do have the Athletics on here. 4 games versus Boston, 3 games versus the Tigers. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They went 1-14 a few weeks ago. They have been on a downward trend. Man, they'll see Peyton Tolley, Patrick Sandoval, Sonny Gray, Casey Mize, Montero, and then, of course, Framber Valdez, which, I mean, they could probably – that might be the only winnable start for them, but that is a tough task for them this upcoming week, especially we'll talk about Shane Langoliers. He's on the IL. Again, I mean, that Athletics team, I mean, maybe the first month everybody was healthy, but ever since then, I mean, you had Kurtz on the IL, you had Jacob Wilson and Tyler Soderstrom on the IL twice, and now you have potentially Langoliers out for the rest of the year with that torn meniscus. So tough break for them. Hopefully, I feel like they will be sellers. I don't know what exactly they'll sell because it's such a good young lineup. So it'll be interesting. I do like them for next year, though. I like every piece that they have in that offense. When they're going, and I like them. So I would buy on them for the drafts for next year. You have the Texas Rangers in here next. They have a game versus Mariners, 3 games at the Rays, 3 games at the Astros, Houston. They're 5-5 in their last 10, but, man, they have a daunting task as well. They're going to see George Kirby. They're going to see Griffin Jackson, Ian Seymour, Shane McCullahan from the Rays, Hunter Brown, Renaud Blanco, and then Tatsuya Amawi from the Houston Astros, and he looked really good his last start. So, I mean, they're seeing pretty much the top of everybody's rotation. And then last but not least, you have the Baltimore Orioles, 3 games at Detroit, 3 games versus the Phillies. They're 7-3 in their last 10, still in the thick of the playoffs. But again, they're going to see Montero. They're going to see Troy Melton. They're going to see Skubal from the Tigers, potentially Skubal, we'll say with that. And then from the Phillies, there's 1 game to be determined, but for sure, they'll see Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler. They're going to see 2 potential NL Cy Young candidates, 3 Cy Young candidates if you count Skubal. So that's a really tough task for that lineup in Baltimore. And they strike out a ton. So you could make the case to maybe start streaming some of those pitchers as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, especially that. I mean, the theme with this list, I feel like all of these teams, the Yankees, the Mariners, the Athletics, the Rangers, the Baltimore Orioles, they've all gone through streaks where they can't score runs and they just can't get it together. And unfortunately for the Yankees right now, yes, 7-3 the last 10 games, which is great, but it's not their hitting at all. Just like the Red Sox earlier on the year, what carried them was their pitching, and that's why they won more baseball games than they did. Same thing with the Yankees at this point. Cole's been pitching great. Mac looked good in his first start coming back from the IL. What was that, Tuesday, I believe? They're getting healthy from a rotation standpoint, which is great, but from a bat standpoint, it's kind of going the other direction. Like we just said, Cody Bellinger, if he's not on the IL already, he is going to probably be on the IL with that hamstring injury. Judge is not coming back anytime soon. There is really nothing to get excited about in that offensive lineup for the Yankees at this point. So I think they are going to struggle this week. They do have some kind of rough matchups against the White Sox, like you said, not the best pitching matchups for those hitters. Seattle Mariners, same exact thing. They've been struggling all year. It's pretty frustrating because you know what their potential could be if they just got some more support for that pitching. But they haven't done that to this point. I feel like we talked about this last year too, Doug, except last year, yes, they did make a couple moves to try to improve that offense. But I feel like because we're having the same conversation, it just isn't going to change anytime soon for Seattle unless they do something drastic. So unless they want to move one of those pitchers to improve that lineup, right now, guys like, a Josh Naylor, a guy like a Randy Rosarina, like those guys aren't as appealing if you don't have other guys in the lineup doing anything else to help them. So again, I'm probably steering away from a lot of those guys if you have other options. The Texas Rangers, you just named off a gauntlet of pitchers that I would not want my hitters to be facing. So yes, I am probably going to be staying away from the Texas Rangers lineup as well. And then Baltimore, I'm going to throw a question to you, Doug, about Baltimore. And it's not so much maybe about the starts of this week, but if you're a Baltimore franchise and you saw how young your franchise was a couple years ago and the promise with it, right? With the Gunnar Hendersons, with the Jackson Holidays coming up, being your number one prospect, the Kobe Mayos. And now you're kind of starting to see it not really come together. What do you do if you're the Baltimore Orioles, Doug, at this trade deadline?
Man, I mean, my first instinct would have been maybe to trade like a Kyle Bradish, but they just signed him long term. So he's going to stay with the team. Gunnar Henderson is going to stay with the team. I think they'll make moves, but it'll be, because they're still in the thick of this, right? They're not out of the playoffs. But I personally think the moves they're going to make are going to be the moves where it'll help them more long term than short. Like we could talk the Red Sox, right? I mean, that trade kind of early for Curtis Mead, I thought they could. We both thought early is probably worth a little bigger of a bat, a little more consistent. But on the flip side of that, Curtis Mead, great year, right? He's under control till 2031. That's a very long time. That's a trade that helps out your franchise in the short term and the long term, right? I feel like that's a move that Baltimore needs to make. And I don't think it's offensive because I think the offense is pretty good. When they're going, they're good. The strikeouts are there, but that's what's going to happen when you do have a Pete Alonso in your lineup, right? He's a hit-or-miss guy. It's the rotation. And I think maybe signing Kyle Bradish was one of the first checks off. You're like, okay, we got a guy here. He's good to go. Now let's try to build. And Trevor Rogers, he looks all right, but I still think they need – I don't think Kyle Bradish is an ace in my opinion. He might be like a 1C, not even a B, but just a C. I think they still need that A, like when they had a Corbin Burns a couple of years ago. Like that was a great rotation for them. So they still need a lot. I still see them trading. It's a shame Adley Rutschman's hurt because he would probably be the one out. Sam Basallo, he looks great. He looks like the real deal. He's the power threat that they wanted, they got. He's the catcher going forward. We all know that. I do think Adley Rutschman, if he's not gone by this week, he'll be gone after the season anyways. He's going to be an odd man out. Who knows? Maybe they do trade Jackson Holiday. Maybe the experiment's over, right? He's done absolutely nothing. He's not helping this lineup. He's hurting it more than they are. There's some appeal still, right? He's still young. There's a team, I'm sure, that would be like, hey, let's take a chance. Let's trade, somebody who might be a free agent in a couple of years for a younger shortstop, second baseman in Jackson Holiday. It's a possibility. I've seen weirder things happen. Connor Early just got traded. And honestly, I like Connor Early more than I like Peyton Tolley, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's a whole debate in its own self. Going back to Curtis Med and just making that full circle, sometimes you just need to leave a team to find your best potential. Like Curtis Med was the number 3 prospect in baseball at one point. And once he left the Rays and then he had a short stint with the White Sox, he really just found himself with the Nationals. And, maybe the same thing can happen for Jackson Holiday too. That is a fun name to throw out there for a trade potential right there. It really hasn't been working out for him there. That's a thought. Now that's a talk radio topic right there if I ever heard one.
See, but that my only hesitation is what's going to happen when these guys leave these destinations that they've become better in? You know what I mean? So like you said, Curtis Mead didn't really work out in Tampa. Kind of didn't really work out in the White Sox in Chicago. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just putting up some great numbers because he's surrounded by a really good cast, right? He's got James Wood in that lineup. He's got C.J. Abrams. He's there. Now, the question is going to be, can he keep it up with the Red Sox? Because the Red Sox don't – I mean, it's a good lineup, but I think James Woods is probably the better hitter out of all of them. You can make the case C.J. Abrams could be a better hitter out of both teams. Those guys aren't in Boston. So do you think Curtis is going to continue? That's my only thing. You know, Connor Early is going to deal. He's already showed you he can be successful for the long term. I think to me, pitchers are a lot easier to grasp than hitters, just because a good pitcher is just good, right? I mean, you just see it everywhere. I think a change of scenery really more helps a hitter than a pitcher. But
absolutely,
I don't know. I really thought they could have gotten more. I really did. And I listen, I'm not to knock on Curtis Mead. He's having a great year. If he can continue at a second base position that you desperately need help at, you know, but I mean, if that's the best you could get for Connor Early, then in that case, throw in Marcel Mayer, do a 2-for-1 or something and go out and get yourself a real bat, not somebody who's going to have question marks once he joins your organization.
See, I'd be curious how close they were, because, you know, the rumor was that they were looking at C.J. Abrams, and that was a potential guy that they were going to move for. If you said C.J. Abrams for Connor Early, a Marcel Mayer, and if you probably need another piece or two, because C.J. Abrams is pretty elite. You know, he really is very, very good at shortstop. I would say maybe arguably the best hitting shortstop this year, you know, especially just by fantasy numbers too. But really, like, what would it take to get him into Boston? Isn't C.J. Abrams pretty young as well still? Isn't he about 25, 26?
And it's funny because if you would have had this discussion a couple years ago, remember that whole gambling thing?
Yes, I do.
It sounded like they were ready to move on from him.
Yep.
They benched him. They didn't play him for a couple weeks. And then it looked like maybe that offseason he was going to be gone. Honestly.
That was after the Cubs series.
Because I remember when that story broke, I think me and you were hanging out in Salem, Massachusetts. And I said, wow, he's gambling. And I'm like, okay, so after a game, he went to a casino with maybe a couple friends, not teammates, but because nobody else got in trouble, just him. And he was gambling. And they benched him. And it was very surprising because he was still pretty decent. You know, he wasn't putting up as good numbers as he is now, but it looked like he was on his way out. So to do a whole 180 and be like, okay, you know what, we're going to hold on to him. We don't want to move him. It's a little strange to me. I think maybe they patched things up with the front office, but I mean, a couple of years ago, if you would have told me he was still going to be with this organization, I wouldn't have believed it. I really wouldn't have. I thought he was on his way out for sure.
It's shocking, really is. I would 100% agree with that. I thought he was out the door. I don't think they were going to have any tolerance for that, but hey, it's working out for him. They clearly figured it out. So yeah, it's just, again, I just wish they did get a little bit more return on a Connor Early. He's shown that he's a major league pitcher, which is already like enough said in a lot of organizations, because some people just come up and they're not at that point yet. Connor Early's having that early success for that as well. So I think it's a slam dunk, definitely for the Nationals, because I think they sold high on a Curtis Med, right? They showed this is the best he's ever played in his career, and they got a quality, young, controllable pitcher back in return. Like, that's almost like a godsend for some teams. So I think it was a great trade for the Nationals, and I still think it's a we'll see for the Sox. I'm not writing off Curtis Med at all. I think he's going to play a lot of third base. I do think Caleb Durbin is going to go to second base. I think that's going to be the move. But again, all these guys I feel like are interchangeable. You know, Curtis Med can play first, he can play third, he could probably play second. So, but I'm thinking Durbin's going to go to second, Med to third, and then you still got to figure out your shortstop situation over there in Boston. But other than that, though, at least they're making moves. That tells me Marcel Mayer's probably out, which tells me that the Red Sox are probably also not done.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying catcher. To me, I don't think that was their biggest need. I mean, Connor Wong is still a decent starter catcher.
Mhm.
So for me, the hole was really infield. It still is infield. I mean, you can make the case. I wouldn't mind an elite bat in the outfield too, just because I know I'm pretty sure Duran is going to be on his way out. Like if I mean, what is he on a 1-year contract, right? So I mean, what are you going to do? You might as well just try to trade him and get what you can from him. And honestly, it just makes so much sense to do maybe him for a pitcher with Seattle. It just makes sense. It makes so much sense that it's just not going to happen. You know, you go out and you trade Connor early, and now you're going to get another young pitcher back. It just makes a little more sense. But I don't think it happens just because.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Seattle was mentioning that, Emerson Hancock could be potentially on the block. I think, again, talk about a guy that's having kind of a pop-out season. I think he made a further step forward this year than a Bryce Miller did, just because of his quality in the beginning of the season while Miller was out. I think he really made that leap. So, again, kind of putting it in the same situation as Curtis Med. It's like, man, why don't you just put this guy, dangle him out there, sell him at his highest peak? You can know that you're going to trade a major league pitcher. Now he's not a prospect or anything like that anymore. And now you can get full value for him. And now you know what the Red Sox got, which was a controllable guy that has power potential in that lineup now. Something Seattle maybe should be considering for like an Emerson Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens next week. That's for sure.
It's the best time of the year, man. It really is.
I know it. All right, let's talk some latest injuries. Then we'll talk streaming options, and then we'll talk a couple updates. Okay, you had, like we talked about, Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman and actually Sam Basolo. They are both on a 10-day IL. Adley's got left wrist inflammation. Basolo, he's got right shoulder inflammation. Both look to need just the minimum. So, early mid-August return would be in the cards. Royals shortstop Bobby Witt, he's on the 10-day IL with lower back tightness. This is more of a precaution, as he was dealing with this back tightness throughout the year. Again, just a minimum for him. Mariners starting pitcher Max Meyer, he hit 15-day IL with that neck strain. There's no time limit, timetable. They're hoping for a minimum is needed for now, but who knows? I mean, this is the point of the year where you really got to start watching these injuries, because if they start trickling into late August, that's when playoffs start. So that's when you could be up the creek without a paddle with some of these guys. Mets outfield DH Juan Soto, he's on a 10-day IL with that strained left calf. Early reports say he might need a little longer than 2 weeks, but that's on the cusp of playoffs, so he should be back by fantasy playoffs for some. Again, Shane Langoliers, he's probably out for the year. He's got that torn meniscus. Who else am I missing? I think we just talked about.
Well, just an update on Max Meyer. It does sound like he's shut down from throwing for 2 weeks. Okay. So,
Bellinger.
Bellinger now too. Yep.
With the hamstring, yeah.
But like you said, you got to be careful with these pitchers and their timelines now. If he's going to be shut down for 2 weeks and Max Meyer, you're talking about maybe a rehab assignment starting in mid-August, So, and then he's going to build himself back up, and then we got to see where the Marlins are even at that point. So there's a lot of question marks with the Max Meyer. I know a lot of people love him this year. He was a top 10 pitcher pretty much the whole entire year. So it's just one of those things that don't get too excited when he does come back, because, again, we've seen these guys come back from injury, and we don't know what they're going to fully do at times.
Right. So let's just talk real quick about some streaming options. Let's talk about offensively first. The familiar face right there, right? The X-Man, Xander Bogaerts. He's 22% owned. They have a really favorable matchup here. 2 games versus the Rockies, 4 games versus the Giants, all at home. Pretty solid his last 7 games, 17 points, averaging 2 points a game for the entire year. If you need the shortstop, if you need, I think he's second base eligible too. If you had a Bobby Witt Jr. and you're trying to fill the hole, figuring out what to do, it's a good streaming option to pick up and plug for now. Brewers outfielder Garrett Mitchell, we talked about him, 8.2% owned. 3 games at the Giants in San Francisco, 3 games at the Angels in Los Angeles. This is a little more of a deeper sleeper. I get it, 8% owned, but he does have a 272 average. He does have 8 home runs. He does have 7 stolen bases on the year, and he is playing every day. So this could be a guy, especially in a Cats league, where you might wants a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, a little bit of everything. This guy will do it for you so far. And with these matchups, I think it still continues. And then last but not least, Pirates second baseman, third baseman, Nick Gonzalez, 19% owned, 3 games against the Diamondbacks at home, 4 games at Cincinnati, 333, 1 homer, 17 points on the week, 311, 6 homers, 217 points, 2.2 a start on the year. I think this could be a really huge week for him. And if you're looking for infield help, I mean, Nick Gonzalez has looked like the man so far with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's playing every day. He's batting in the middle of that lineup. That's going to continue. And the only really scary matchup, I think, would be in Cincinnati. I think they are playing Hunter Green, like we talked about earlier. But other than that, nothing really would scare me in a weekly lineup league, and I would probably throw him in if I needed him.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great pick. I think Xander Bogaerts is a great pick. I think a lot of that baseball team in San Diego is starting to really hit. Who was it? Luis Rodulfo is also hitting this week as well for them. I mean, it's just I feel like there's 5 or 6 guys in that lineup that are just really producing. So again, Xander Bogaerts, he's going to get the opportunities, obviously being their starting shortstop. Like you said, Bobby Witt's out. You got to have options. We talked about Cooper Pratt earlier, maybe being potential option too. He might still be out there, but 22% owned. Obviously, it's not the same Xander Bogaerts that we're used to back in the day, but he still can be productive. Garrett Mitchell, love that you put Garrett Mitchell on here just because he just seems like he just pops off sometimes. Like he just gets, I feel like, more opportunities on that Milwaukee team because it's so deep that he just gets opportunities where he has guys on base and he can knock them in. So again, 272 average is nothing to sniff at. 8 homers, 7 stolen bases on the year. Again, maybe nothing crazy to be ecstatic about, but again, the matchups, the Giants, the Angels, again, that lineup, he's going to have opportunities this week, and he's probably going to be playing every day this week. So a lot to look forward to.
Right. So let's talk pitchers. I love the Shane Drohan picture right there, like a little
a little glove on the shoulder.
Yeah. So let's talk some pitchers. I do have Diamondbacks starting pitcher Merrick Kelly. Listen, 21% owned. Monday, he's at Pittsburgh. Sunday, he's at Cleveland against the Guardians. 3-0 in his last 4 starts. And these are against some pretty good teams. Brewers, Padres, Cardinals, and then, of course, the A's. But you still beat the Brewers, still beat the Cardinals. So I think you ride the hot hand. Diamondbacks do have something to play for. I say you let him roll. I think this is a really fun, good 2-star matchup for him. And then we're going to end this with a couple Brewer guys here. Robert Gasser, 4% owned Friday at the Angels in Los Angeles. 3-1 in his last 6. Does have a few quality starts against the Braves, the Cardinals, and just the Rockies yesterday. I like the matchup here with the Brewers offense finally scoring runs. They're averaging 4 runs in their last 10 games. Gasser should definitely have a chance to pick up the W. And Brewers starting pitcher, relief pitcher Shane Drohan, 13% owned Wednesday at San Francisco, the Giants. 2-2 in his last 4. He's gone at least 6 innings in all 4 starts, 3 quality starts. Could easily be 3-1. I like the matchup. He actually does rack up a decent amount of strikeouts. He's averaging 6 strikeouts an outing in his last 4 starts. Again, the offense, like I said, they're rolling. Could get you a nice little cheap win in that RP spot.
Yeah, I like the Shane Drohan pickup this week just because if he can produce, you might be able to roll him over next week if you're in a weekly league for a 2-star pitcher as well, if he's going to be tentatively pitching on Wednesday this week. So, again, I like what I see from him, too. He plays for a good baseball team for one, but he is starting to rack up some strikeouts, and he is starting to get some quality starts. So, something to definitely keep a pulse on. Definitely almost like a 101 streamer, like almost like that's exactly what you look out for when streaming pitchers. So, yeah, definitely love the Shane Drohan. Love the Robert Gasser, too. Again, competitive team. Give you a chance to get a W, get some points there. And then Merrill Kelly. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I thought this guy was going to be on the block for sure, but I feel like the Diamondbacks are trying to do something special here. They're sitting in second place, I believe, right now on this day. And, I mean, again, you got to have to keep the band together and see you have to play it out. So I don't know if Merrill Kelly is going to be on the move anymore. I mean, 3-0 in his last 4 starts against some really good baseball teams is really encouraging to see. Yes, he's a little bit of a veteran. Yes, he's a little bit older, but the production's still there against the Pirates, against the Guardians, 2 teams that are not going to be hitting well lately. I'm about it. I'm about a Merrill Kelly start. Can we believe it? Can we believe we're talking about Merrill Kelly? Let's go.
Well, dude, this is what happens at this time of the year, right? You're trying to figure out, pick and place some of these pitchers because just the way the roster is and the lineups and the skipping and the caps. Now you're fighting for that. You know, if you have 6 starting pitchers and you're fighting for the last 2 spots, you're looking for somebody to stream. Merrill Kelly comes into play, man.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
All right, let's talk some updates here. As you know, Yankees starting pitcher Max Fried is back. He looks great. You can put him back in your lineup. Guardians third base DH Jose Ramirez is back. He looks great. You can put him back in your lineup. Let's stick with the Yankees for a little while. Starting pitcher Carlos Rodon, he threw 2 side sessions on Saturday. He should be cleared to throw a live bullpen this week, putting him on track for mid-August, which would, again, be helpful for playoffs. This one's a tough one. Yankees outfielder DH Aaron Judge says he's feeling better, but hasn't shown enough signs of healing to warrant being cleared. Still no timetable. And with playoffs coming around the corner, you might need to prepare for him not being there. So with the trade deadline, you might have to go out there, and if you want to fill that spot and you want to get a stud bat in your lineup, you might have to look at doing some trades, maybe offering 2 really good players for one really, really good one or something like that. But you got to get creative. Judge is not going to be there. Same thing. You can make the case for Garrett Crochet, Red Sox starting pitcher. No return date on him. He hasn't even been cleared to throw, restart his throwing program. He hasn't been cleared for that. Even when he is cleared, you're talking about live BP, you're talking about live hitters, and then a handful of rehab starts. I think you could make the case in redrafts just to drop him. Just to drop him if you need the spot, if you don't have any IL spots in rosters, positions available, you just drop him. Honestly, he's not going to be there for you. Dodgers starting pitcher Shohei Ohtani, strictly going to be a hitter going forward. They canceled his bullpen session Saturday. It almost looks like this knee issue is really hindering his hitting. I mean, even today he struck out. 6 points in his last 8 games with 8 strikeouts, no home run, no stolen bases in about a month. That's a tough pill to swallow. Obviously you got to roll with him, Shohei Ohtani, but man, there might be hesitation. I would definitely watch what's going on with the Dodgers because they're up so much in that division. They could just elect to give this guy a week off. That's how much they're up. They're up double-digit games here. They might actually do that. And if they do that and it's before the playoffs, well, that means fantasy playoffs. So you might be up the creek without a paddle again. So you might have to be creative on what you want to do with that spot. Sticking with the Dodgers, though, Blake Snell tossed an inning in the third in his last rehab start, gave up 0 earned, struck out 4, 32 pitches. He's on track for an early to mid-August return, just in time for playoffs. This one, Dodgers starting pitcher Tyler Glasnow, he faced live hitters Friday. He'll require an extended rehab once he starts playing in games. At this point, if he does get a setback, he will be droppable in redrafts. Just throw it out there.
Yep, absolutely he is. And you know what? Going back to Garrett Crochet, because that was pretty – man, you just kind of laid it on heavy, right? You're talking about dropping a first, if not early second-round pick. We just don't know what Garrett Crochet is going to be like when he comes back either. He's going to need an extended rehab just like Tyler Glasnow has. And at this point, since he doesn't have a return date, we don't even know if he is going to be back this year or not, even for the regular season for that matter. So, again – like you said, plan accordingly. You got to have to start to think about outside the box. Going back up top, though, Max Fried looks great. Jose Ramirez obviously looks great. Put them back in your lineups. Carlos Rendon, great to see him starting to throw again. He needs to stay healthy going down the stretch if we want to have see him pitch. Again, Aaron Judge, you can almost argue the same thing in redraft leagues. Again, it's getting kind of close. We don't know what this timeline looks like. It's getting close, so we got to keep a pulse on that. Man, Ohtani, doesn't it just sound like sell, sell, sell? When you kind of word it the way you did, it's like if he is fighting through this injury, is he going to be due for an IL stint? Is it just he's trying to play through it? They can give him the time off, like you said. What kind of production are you going to get from a fantasy perspective from Ohtani moving forward, especially when we marked him as like a pitcher this year for the most part because he was so good pitching. You could argue in weekly leagues that was the better position from hitting. So, again, a lot of headaches this year with Ohtani. Great to see Blake Snell. Hey, 4 strikeouts, 1 in the third. no earned. I mean, that's the best case scenario, 100 out of 100, if you ask me. So great to see that. Very encouraging. And then Tyler Glasnow, like you said, we'll have to keep a pulse on that, see if he has any setbacks or not. But if he does, yeah, we might have to say we have to wait till 2027 for him.
Yeah. It is what it is at that point. At this point, it's so late in the game for fantasy. You kind of got a week for trades. Get creative. Fill the need you need. Don't be scared to trade some of the bigger guys. It is what it is. In redraft leagues especially, you want to trade Shohei Ohtani? Mike, you're kind of selling me on that, man. I'm telling you. It just doesn't look good. I don't know what is going on with him. I think he needs he needs a break. And I've said this, I think we've said this on the show. It's like, how sustainable can it be for a guy to pitch and hit all the time? I don't think it is. I think it's got to be one or the other. That's the only reason why it's one or the other. It's just the toll your body takes. And Ohtani's not, 22, 23, he's in his early 20s, late 20s, early 30s now, or will be. And that's when, we've all been 30. That's when the downfall starts on your body. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do going forward. I don't know. I think it'll be his call, but I think the Dodgers will probably caution with him picking one or the other at some point.
Yeah, and honestly, they don't have to pitch him. They really just don't. Like you said, they got Blake Snell coming back. They already got a 6-man rotation. Like, it's a benefit to have him in there, and it's great to have him in there. But really, he's more effective in that lineup as a bat, mostly long-term wise. Pitching, it's great. We wanted the Cy Young, obviously, this year. He wanted the Cy Young this year. He knew this was the year to do it. But like you said, it's wear and tear. No one's ever done this before. You just have to be realistic with your body and your expectations from it. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit with Ohtani.
Right. Well, all right, man. That's it. Hopefully we gave you guys the information you need to have a successful week 17. Maybe you need that last win to get into the playoffs, and every single win toward the end of the year really does help, really does matter. So got some streamers for you, some tough matchups, some good matchups. Take the information we give you and run and fly. Do all that fun stuff. So make sure to like us. Make sure to catch us live here Friday nights, FSAN, Bourbon and Ball. We're coming at you live, 8 p.m. Eastern, Friday nights, live. Come in, leave some messages, talk, chat, do whatever you want. Make sure to bring yourself a drink because we like to, it's Friday night. You deserve a drink after a hard week of work.
Of course.
So all that good stuff. And again, catch us every Monday with a recorded show here. So good luck, guys. Have a fun week. Get the W, man.